So one day I ordered this new hamster ball that I thought would be better to run on water with than my old hamster ball, but it was kind of too short, but I dealt with it and made my way down to the lake to test it out. I got exhausted in the way, but I eventually made it there, and I normally put my hamster balls in creeks where there's a current, and I didn't realize you needed a current or else you just stay in the same spot, so I couldn't make it to the dock. But it was still pretty cool inside, and I tried to spin as much as possible to get some more movement, but after a long while of spinning and doing a bunch of flips, I was making no progress. So I just parked it in the shore, got out, and then started skipping rocks sad. Let me know what else you should do.
So one day I went to Walmart and got a bunch of cardboard to make one of those cardboard tunnel slides on my stairs like I've seen before, and tape, and then left, went home and started building it. I taped the first box down at the top and was adding glow sticks all along on the way down. I then taped the second box to the top one and repeated this process for a long time until eventually I was done. The slide was looking pretty cool. I threw some pillows down to break my fall and went down it. And the first one was kind of anticlimactic, but my brother went down pretty fast and almost hurt himself. And on his next go, he basically destroyed the slide. So I had to remove this piece and put down a new flooring that made it actually faster. Here's a POV of me sliding down. And here's my final go. So one day I decided to cartwheel across America. Well, like half of America. I cartwheeled way out of my neighborhood and on down into Arkansas, where I cartwheeled for quite a while until I made it to Mississippi, where I also cartwheeled for a while, but not quite as long. And then on up into Alabama, and then from there, clear on up into Florida, where my cartwheeling eventually got pretty bad. But the point is, I kept going clear on out to the ocean and on into the water. Yeah. So one day I wanted to put chalk dash lines all around my neighborhood like I saw this girl on TikTok do. So I went to Walmart and got some spray chalk and some regular chalk. Then went home and tried to make a stencil out of cardboard but failed. Then I tested out some spray chalk, and after that I measured the middle of the road and marked it. Then I tied some rope to a hoverboard to try to pull me, but it failed. Then I made it longer, and it still failed. So I tried walking, but that sucked. And I thought it'd be easier with some normal chalk, but it still failed. So I got out a hoverboard I thought was broken, and it worked perfectly. And when I ran out of one piece, I got a new one, and kept going all the way until the end of one side of my neighborhood. I ran out again, but kept going, and then was done. And then I went back home, got some more chalk, and went out to the other side of my neighborhood to get started. And I finished off the neighborhood and ran out of chalk. And then on the way home, my hoverboard died, so I had to carry it all the way home. And now here's driving before the lines, and here's driving after. So one day someone commented for me to crush the aluminum foil ball with my giant rubber band ball, and I'm going to do that, but first I wanted to add some more aluminum foil. I wrapped it one way and then the other with a lot of foil, and then I patted it down, and then I hammered it down. And it's almost 15 pounds. Here it is next to the rubber band ball, and here's me throwing it as high as I can. And now for crushing it. And then I flipped it on the other side and crushed it again. It didn't do that much damage. It was pretty tough. Comment what I should do next. So one day I wanted to see what all I could destroy from dropping my band ball up high. So I went to Walmart, got a chair, a Hot Wheel, a lot of Diet Coke, a container, and a watermelon. Then I went home, set up a ladder, and dropped the Diet Coke, and it did nothing. So I threw it, and then I dropped the band ball in another bottle. And when that failed, I shook it up and did it again. And it worked. And then my brother threw me one that I dropped. And after that, I decided to crush the Hot Wheel, and it held up pretty well. And then I dropped the 21-pound ball on the bin, and it did the most damage so far. But not enough. And after that was this tiny chair thing that got kind of broken, and I fell. Next, we dropped it on a water gun, and a piece came off. Then I shook the rest of the Diet Coke up and knocked them over, and then threw them all, one by one. And all this destroying was a lot like this game I've been playing where you drop and smash random stuff. Click the link in my bio if you want to download it. And lastly was the watermelon, and it got crushed. And I even ate some. So one day I wanted to hoist this giant water balloon up into this tree. So I went to Walmart and got a lot of paracord and a tarp. Then I went home and laid out the tarp and the balloon, and then I put the hose in and started filling it up. Until eventually it was big enough, and I stopped the water, took the hose out, and zip tied it. And it was pretty cool. We wrapped the tarp around it and then ran the paracord through all the holes. Then I climbed into the tree and threw the paracord over the branch as a pulley, but it was too heavy. So I unzipped it to let some water out and got in it and put my head in it. And then we let the water come out and we tried again, but failed again. So we attached the paracord to the truck and just broke the tarp. So then I let some of the water drain out and put it in a hammock and started filling it up back up again. And I sat on it and even laid on it. And then I started rocking it back and forth and it fell out. So I stood on it and then jumped on it and eventually it broke. Yeah. So sad.
So one day someone commented for me to drop my rubber band ball in a microwave, so I'm going to do that. I'm also going to crush this piece of furniture along with a few other things with this giant 100-pound rubber band ball. So I got in the ladder and threw it, and it did that. I then picked it up and plugged it in to test it would still turn on, and it did, but the doors broke. Next, I got this jug of water I just filled up with the hose, and it did that. Then this bouncy ball that was way louder in person. And last but not least was this piece of furniture I found in my attic, and it did that. Let me know what else I should crush with my rubber band ball.
So one day I decided to fill a giant hamster ball up with water and get in it. I moved it to level ground and then put the hose in to let it fill up. Then I put some wood down so it wouldn't roll and let it fill. And here's the checkpoint. It's pretty cool looking, and I hit it on the side and then added some more air. And after that I let it fill up to this point. And I'm going to stop it when it gets to the zipper. And it got there, so I stopped it. Then I put some goggles on and unzipped it, but it broke. But I got in anyway. I went in and swam to the side, and I looked like a fish, and then I struggled to get out. Then I threw the snorkel and went back under with just the goggles, and it was pretty cool. I swam around, did a circle, and then did another circle, and then struggled again to come up. And it was kind of like a water balloon, so I jumped on it, rocked on it, flipped on it, and then swam on it. Let me know any other ideas you have for me to try. So one day I got a comment that said to fill my hamster ball with Orbeez in water. So I dumped a bunch of Orbeez in, zipped it up, and then let it air up. And once it was aired up, I added some water until it was done. Then I set it in this spot and let it set overnight and came back the next day and it looked like this. I deflated it and then messed with the Orbeez. And I'd never really even touched Orbeez, so it was pretty cool. I then got in all the way, which was really hot because it sat in the sun all day. And then just messed around with the Orbeez until it was all the way filled up. And then I walked around in it. And then shaked all around in it, like this, and then splashed them all, and then did a snow angel. I also went out on the road, ran for a bit, then got hot and tired and got out. Let me know what else I should do in it. So one day someone commented to put Flex Seal on the Crown Royale bottle and then see if it broke. So I sprayed Flex Seal on it, gave it a good coat, then came back later and gave it another coat. And then came back later and gave it one last coat. And then it was time to drop it. I took it to the cul-de-sac and dropped it from waist high and it was fine. So then I threw it up in the air and it cracked a little bit. But the Flex Seal kept all the glass together, which was cool. Let me know what else I should do. So one day someone commented that I should cover my rubber band ball in Flex Seal, and seeing as I broke it and it needed a little bit of fixing because there's glass shards on it, I thought, why not? So I rolled it out to my yard and started spraying it. I sprayed all around it until it was done. Actually, I gave it a little bit more and then let it sit. And the next day I came back and it had rained, but it was still solid compared to the side that wasn't Flex Seal. I picked it up and took it out to the cul-de-sac and it bounced the same and was just kind of stale. I rolled it into the basketball goal. Boom. Then stood on it, and let me know what else I should do. So one day I went out to a pumpkin patch to get the biggest pumpkin they had. When I walked up, I saw a dog and thought it was nice, but it barked at me. So I just went along, looked at the pumpkins, and here was the biggest ones, the biggest being 30 pounds. But it wasn't actually, because this one weighed 45 pounds. I looked around at the other pumpkins and ended up getting this one and the giant 45-pound one. I put it in the car and then went home to think about what I was going to do with it. I had 4 ideas: carve it, put it on my head, destroy it with the rubber band ball, or blow it up. And I ended up destroying some other pumpkins with the rubber band ball. Slow motion. And then I put it on as a hat. So like if you want me to blow this pumpkin up, or comment what else you want me to do with it. So one day someone commented to put Flex Seal and then rubber bands on the egg. So I'm going to do that and also launch it in my giant slingshot. But first I Flex Sealed it and then came back and gave it another coat. And after that, I left and came back the next day and gave it another coat. When it was dry, it looked like this. Then I gave it one last coat and it was ready. And it was still kind of wet, but I placed a bunch of bands on it and it looked like this. Then I placed a bunch more bands on it and it looked like that. Then I got out another pile, placed it on, it looked like that. Then I got out these big ones and it looked like that. Then I put it in the slingshot, pulled back, and launched. And it hit the ground pretty hard. I ran to check if the egg was okay and it was leaking. It wasn't. So one day I ordered a life straw that's supposed to allow you to drink any water. I opened it up, read the package, and then tried to drink with it. And it had the wrong end, but the other end wouldn't fit. So I went and got a container, dumped my drink into it, and then drank out of the wrong end again. And the straw made it taste kind of funny, so I got up and went to test it on hot tub water. And let's just say it still tasted like hot tub water. I spit it out, and then I left and went to the creek to test out the creek water. I put my straw in the water and started drinking it. And
tastes like water.
I took another drink from the creek, and then I threw the straw around my neck and left. So one day, after filling my storm shelter entirely up with ball pit balls, we cleaned it up because someone commented to turn it into a cool fort. So I went to Walmart and got a beanbag, some MRE ice cream and egg, and a thing of water to make it kind of survival-y, and a bin and a desk. And then I took it all to the storm shelter and started putting it together. Put the beanbag in, then the desk, which made me laugh for some reason, and then I hung up these lights. Pretty cool. Next, I got the MREs in a bin, set it on the desk, and then filled the water jug up. And the fort was pretty much done to me. Let me know what else you think I should add. Oh, and I also tried one of the MRE ice cream sandwiches. It was pretty good.
So one day I went to Walmart and got all the rubber bands they had to make another rubber band ball. Because a lot of people have been wanting me to cut my giant 300-pound rubber band ball in half with a 1,000-degree knife. But I don't want to do that, so I'm going to make another smaller one, starting with this small one and adding a bunch more bands to it. Until eventually it looked like this. And it wasn't near as big as my giant one, but check out this cool little trick when you drop them. It launches them. And it was time to cut first this even smaller one. It cut it right in half and burnt right through it. And then this one. And it worked its way through. And eventually I sawed a little bit and it just popped all the bands off. Remember, don't try any of this stuff at home. It wouldn't go through the tinfoil ball, so I just threw the knife at the tree and stuck it. So one day I ordered this $170 water gun that I saw on David Dobrik's TikTok. It was pretty cool looking. I was pretty excited to test it out. I put it in my hot tub and filled it on up all the way to 100, and then I shot it and I was shocked. I shot the gutter and it was amazing. Then I kind of went crazy shooting the window, almost the camera, then the pipe again, just shooting at the air and then at the ground and then in the hot tub. And then I did a cool 360 off the hot tub and the gun was kind of making me feel like a kid. I shot this target and then got in the tree and shot at my brother. Then I let him shoot me point blank and just look at this slow-mo. And then I shot him. And then he chased me. But then I decided to go on a mission to shoot my friend Austin. I drove over to him, had the gun ready, and snuck up on him, and shot him.
Ow, bro, what are you doing? Bro!
And he tried to shoot me while I ran off in the sunset. So one day I ordered one of those ab stimulator things I always see advertised to test if they really work. I opened it up, read the instructions, then put batteries in the motor and put the motor on and put it on my stomach. Then I turned it on and kept pressing the button to increase the intensity, and honestly it kind of tickled. And I decided to leave it on for a while to get the full effect and even do crunches and stuff. I had it on for a long time, and then I looked at the sunset and looked at my abs and realized it was time to take it off. And the results were amazing. Just kidding, that's not me. I'm right here and I don't really know if anything changed and I don't really know if this thing works, so I just threw it over the fence but missed, so I threw it again. And then just walked away not caring. So one day I saw that I left my giant hamster ball out in the leaves for months, so I got a leaf blower, blew all the leaves out, and saw that there was still a bunch of Orbeez, so I cleaned all the Orbeez out, put them in the dumpster, and I also had to hurry because there was a storm coming. I rinsed off the hamster ball, and then decided to try to get in it with these hover shoes. I got in, and then my brother zipped me up and aired me on up. But I had to stop and get out because it got too dark and stormy. But the next day was super sunny, so I got in and tried again. It aired up, and then I put my hood on because it was kind of grimy and went off. I got on the hover shoes, spun around, walked around, and fell. Then I drove a little bit more, went off into the grass, then decided to get out and throw the hamster ball away because it was really grimy. But here's the good news. If this video gets 1.5 million likes, I'll buy a new, bigger, better $800 hamster ball. So one day it was really windy, so I took this giant 6-foot water balloon and I tried to fill it up with air. I got my air pump out, filled it all the way up until it was pretty big. Then I stopped, zip-tied it, tied a string around it, and ran around with it. It was pretty massive. I spun it around, threw it. It didn't pop. I kicked it, still didn't pop. And then I threw it up in the air, caught it, and we were best friends. I ran around, put it in my brother's truck, tried to shoot a basket with it, and then I bopped it with my head and bopped it a little too far and it popped. I was sad.
One day I took an air mattress and a bunch of cardboard and decided to make a cardboard air mattress type boat. And my goal was to make it to where you couldn't see any of the air mattress, so it just looked like a complete cardboard boat. I got it completely finished and it looked pretty cool. I took it out to the lake, then I jumped on and paddled my way out. And it was working. I was smooth sailing, then I got blown into the trees, but eventually pushed my way out and made my way around the dock thinking I was going to dock it, but ended up just going all the way around and then headed for these rocks, where I parked the boat for a little while, got off, and then kept going. And I went all the way around this little peninsula and went to shore. Let me know what else I should make.
So one day someone commented for me to drop my rubber band ball in glass. So I went to Walmart and bought a bunch of different glass items, then went home, laid out a tarp, and started with this glass vase. I set it down, then got the rubber band ball and threw it on it. And here's the slow-mo. It completely shattered and tore rubber bands off my rubber band ball. Yeah, I didn't expect that much, so I got this more solid piece of glass, laid it down, and crushed it. And here's that slow-mo. It was obliterated as well. It knocked a bunch more bands off. My ball is pretty mutilated. I washed some of the glass off, and there was a glass piece stuck in it. Comment what else I should try. So one day I got a Crown Royale bottle to see if it was really indestructible. I dropped it from waist high, and it was fine. So then I gave it a little toss, and it shattered. Here's the slow-mo. Yeah, I was a little confused. I guess TikTok lied to me, so I walked away sad. So one day I went to Walmart and got Flex Seal to test on random junk. I started off with a basketball, sprayed the entire thing until it was completely covered, and then I moved on to a plastic ball and did it. And after that I broke a hoverboard that already didn't work and sprayed it. Then I did this old ramp with paper covering the big hole. Next, I sprayed this broken snow shovel and came back the next day when everything was dry. And I kicked the basketball, messed around with it, and it mainly just felt like rubber. Next up was the shovel, and it looked pretty repaired until I tried to dig with it. Now here's the plastic ball, and here's the hoverboard that fell apart when I tried to touch it. But the ramp actually looked pretty good, so I decided to jump it. And it held up, so I jumped it again even faster. And it didn't hold up. Let me know what else I should try.
So one day someone commented that I need to put more coats of Flex Seal on the egg. So I Flex Sealed another egg and then put another coat on the other side. And after that, I let it dry, then put another coat on. And then put another coat on. And then put one last coat on. And it was done and seemed pretty sturdy, so I tested it from a waist-high drop, and it held up pretty well. So I went a little higher, and it seemed a little bit mushed in. So I threw it up in the air, and then it was like completely mushed in. So I just threw it up one more time for the heck of it, and it was crushed. So one day I got a comment that said to Flex Seal a water balloon, so I got Flex Seal in a water balloon and filled the water balloon up. I shook the can and then sprayed it, and it popped. So I filled up another balloon, and it held up while I sprayed it. I finished it and let it sit, but when I came back, it was popped. So then I tried freezing one. It froze overnight, and the next day I took it out and Flex Sealed it. I sprayed it until it was completely black, and then I took it into the garage to dry, hoping it wouldn't melt. And it didn't, but the balloon still popped. Let me know what else I should try. One day I decided to see if I could make foam board into a boat that would float me down the creek. This is going to be my first part to a series where I test if random objects or materials will make a boat. I had the boat made, and then I took it down to the creek, put it in the water, and got in. And at first, I didn't think it was going very well. Then I put a hole in it and had to move it to deeper water. So then I tested it again and completely ruined the boat. Look at it. So then I ran off sad, but comment any other boat ideas you want me to make. So one day, after destroying a bunch of stuff with my homemade rubber band ball wrecking ball, I got a microwave and decided to go again. And it weighs like 123 pounds now, so it should do more damage. Here it goes. Yeah, I didn't think it was enough damage, so I set it back up and went again. And it did get nailed, but I wanted to hit it one more time. And then I put down this kickball, thinking it would go super far, but it didn't. So then I got out this broken TV that I failed to smash before, and it did that, and completely destroyed the microwave that was holding it up. I walked up to it, and then my brother pulled the door off. Let me know what else we should smash. So one day I got a comment that said to float down the creek in this inflatable pool, so I cleaned it out, then put it in my brother's truck, and headed on down to the creek. I re-aired it up first, and then carried it on down, went across the water, and got in, and took off. And I was just rolling along under the bridge. It was pretty fun. I started to pick up my speed. Pshee. And like all creek videos, I just kept going out further and further until I was gone forever. Nah, not really. I came back. Comment any other ideas you want me to try. So this is rubber band ball part 38, and this ball is getting giant, and I'm going to keep going. Got a bunch more bands, you know, and I tested out these new bands that didn't end up working. So I just ended up going back to these colored rubber bands, and the camera cut out, and I lost all that footage of me putting on. So here's me putting on the last one, and then taking it downstairs. And the ball now weighs 109 pounds. I took it outside, and it ran into a bush. And then I set it on top of this swing and started swinging it. And it was pretty cool, and I tried to knock it off, but couldn't. The most it did was that, and then I just got on it and kicked it off. And it's so heavy I can barely pick it up anymore. Let me know if you want me to keep going. So I'm to part 39 of this giant rubber band ball, and I can't find any other type of rubber bands except these ones to place on it. So let me know if you have any other options, but for now, I'm going to keep on placing these. And I placed the entire pile of color rubber bands until I was all out. And then I took the ball outside to mess around with it, and it was snowing, so I just laid on the ball and caught the snow. And I can't even lift it over my head anymore because it weighs like 110 pounds. And then here's me breaking a basketball goal with it. And here it is next to a basketball, and then me standing on it, and let me know if I should keep on doing this. So I'm now to part 40 of my giant rubber band ball, and I wanted to walk you guys through the entire process. I take it upstairs and into this room where I sit down and place rubber bands. I'm actually running out of the type of rubber bands I can place because these ones are just too tiny and break on me. And these ones are just getting old and I have to untangle them every single time. But no worries, I found this random custom rubber band site on the internet and called them up. Yo, I need your 15-inch rubber bands. I'm gonna place an order for like 25 pounds. And just like that, $200 worth of rubber bands was on the way. But for now, I'm gonna place these ones. I put them in a pile and then untied them all and got to placing them. And I placed the entire pile of colored rubber bands until I was all out. And after that, I took it downstairs, which was a struggle, but I got it. And I weighed the ball in at 113 pounds. I then took it to the street to try to pick it up. And I can get it up to here, but it's too heavy to get over my head. So I just laid on it, like if you want me to keep on adding bands. So I'm now to rubber band ball part 41, and my 25 pounds of rubber bands got here. So I took it upstairs along with my giant rubber band ball. I took it all to the room where I placed the bands, and then I threw that in a package and opened it up. And each bag weighed 5 pounds.
I dumped them all out, and the bands were pretty good. So I dumped out 10 pounds of bands and got to placing. And it was a lot, so I had my brother help me with this one. And we were going for so long, my phone even cut out because it ran out of storage. But we finished eventually and then took it downstairs. I got it all the way down and then weighed it in at 123 pounds. I took it outside and just look at it next to a wheel and next to my head. And here's my best effort at trying to pick it up. I can barely do it anymore. Let me know what else I should do with this ball. So I'm now at a rubber band ball part 51, and it is huge. I didn't get quite as many rubber bands this time, though, because there was a delay in shipping this week. But the ball's close to 300 pounds now, and I want to get it there. I placed this entire pile all the way until my phone died and stopped recording. But I still finished the ball and tried to weigh it, but the scale was being weird and wouldn't tell me any accurate numbers that made any sense. But I'm assuming it's close to 300 pounds. And the ball almost tried to roll into a car. Like if I should keep going. One day on part 53 of my giant rubber band ball series, I thought it was like any other rubber band ball video, placing a bunch of bands, but the clouds began to move in. After a while of placing rubber bands, it began to pour, and the rain just kept coming down harder and harder, so I got the beanbag to safety and then had to come back for the rubber band ball. Pushed that over 300-pound rubber band ball through the rain and into the garage, and then went back, making 2 trips to get all the rubber bands to place it in the garage. I shut the garage door, dried off the rubber band ball, and we got to work placing all the rest of the bands until we were eventually done. And the ball now should weigh like 347 pounds. Like if I should keep on going. So one day someone commented telling me to put my giant hamster ball in the water, so I'm going to do that. But I pushed it through this fence and walked it out to the pond. But the fence had knocked a hole in it, so we had to repair it, and then I got in and got in the water. And I couldn't really move very well, and my biggest fear was going through the hole. I slipped a lot and also just laid down. And then I slipped some more and couldn't move for a while until I accidentally made my way over these branches. And I was trying to run the other way in fear of moving into them, but I couldn't. And eventually I did just float into shore and then got grabbed and got out. Like if I should jump off this bridge with it. So one day I got a comment that said to zip line into a ball pit. So I took my inflatable pool, dumped it out, cleaned it with water, and then poured all the ball pit balls I had into it. And when it was done, I jumped into it. And then got on the zip line to test it out. And I'm a pro, so don't try this at home. And then my brother went. Then I went again and hit my arm on the seat on the drop. Yeah. Comment anything else I should try. So one day I got a comment that said to zip line into an inflatable pool. So I ordered one on Amazon, opened it up, and then blew it up. Then I carried it over to a good spot, got a hose, but it was too short. So I got a longer one. I let it fill up and then went. Don't try this at home, by the way. And it kind of hurt. Then I almost fell. Let me know what else I should do. So one day someone commented for me to try to trade my rubber band ball with the pawn shop again. So I put it in my car, and this would be my 3rd time going. I walked in and said,
I'm back. Hey, what's happening, Dylan? I actually have this new ball.
I showed him my new aluminum foil ball first, and he said,
Pretty neat. You from getting an alien invasion. I was thinking this thing is started it, so it's probably not going to be worth a ton. $300.
and he kind of looked at me like I was crazy, and then asked how many rolls of aluminum foil were in it. So I told him 6, and then he asked how much weight, and I didn't know. So I had him weigh it, and it wouldn't register.
How much did you spend on the foil? About like 24.
And he passed, so I threw it down and got the rubber band ball.
Almost 80 pounds, and is the most famous rubber band ball in the world, probably, maybe. That's massive.
He picked it up and then asked how much I'd sell it to him for. And I thought for a second and then highballed him at 25 grand.
1,000? Wow.
And he said his shop could probably only sell it for...
$100.
So I knew we had no deal. I had to pass. I got some candy and then went out the door. And the ball almost went in the street. Let me know any other ideas you have. So one day I ordered around 300 Rubik's Cubes to try to make one of those paintings that I keep seeing on TikTok. We made a frame, I tested it out, and it would do. It was alright. But then I had to think what I would make and how I would make it. And I decided I would make Shrek using a color grid type thing. So then I started placing cubes, and I underestimated how long it would take. It ended up taking like 4 hours. And I didn't have black, so I ended up using orange. So when I got done, I rearranged some cubes and also took some stickers off and made it look even better. And the further you go, the more it looks like Shrek. So one day I ordered this stuff called Great Stuff, which is basically expandable foam insulation. And my goal was to build a boat out of it. Not just any boat, a cardboard boat. Because a while back I had a series on TikTok where I tried to make cardboard boats float, and I was never very successful. But I used the best cardboard boat design I knew how to make, and then I was going to cover the entire outside in the Great Stuff. And hopefully it'll float. So I finished taping up the entire bottom. Like this. And I already had a decent looking boat. Then we covered the entire bottom in the Great Stuff. And then later we covered the rest of the sides. And when I came back the next day, it was solid looking. And it was ready to be tested in the creek. I walked it down,
and then got in. And I started to float away. It was working flawlessly without any problem. So I just kept on rowing and having a good time. And then I about ran into a tree. And then I started heading out further. And it was the best boat I'd ever made. I just kept going.
One day I decided to take my old giant paper airplane that didn't fly very well and recreate it with great stuff. So we coated the whole thing in this great stuff and outlined it until it was done. And then we let it dry and came back. And the paper wasn't very easy to peel off. It took quite a while, but eventually I got it and it looked like this. And then the next day it was ready to fly. Yeah, the first flight wasn't great, neither was the second, and not really the third. It was a little bit better. And after another fail, I cut some off and had this flight. It was pretty good. Then I threw it in a pool and jumped in. So one day I decided to fill this giant hamster ball up with water and swim in it. And this one's a lot bigger than my last one, so it'd be easier to fill with water. And I stopped it at this level so I could still be able to get in and swim in it. And then I jumped in, and it was pretty cool inside. I went underwater, and here I am. And then I came back up and put some goggles on and went back underwater again. And it was really cold, so I got out for a sec, got in the hot tub, and then got back in with a floaty. And then spun around. And then I decided to turn it into a giant batch of Kool-Aid. Full videos on my YouTube, Dylan Ayres. So one day I decided to make a life jacket out of great stuff and a pair of slides. Started with the life jacket, then outlined a pair of my slides and filled that out. I messed with the slides a little bit off camera to make them look like this, but the next day they were pretty good. I could walk in them, jump, even run. I also threw them in this tiny pool and they floated. And then I got out the life jacket and tried to run in the pool thinking I would run on water, but I didn't. And then I took the life jacket to the creek to test it. And when I fell in, the great stuff life jacket perfectly saved me. And it worked amazingly. Still do not attempt this.
So one day I filled this inflatable pool up with oobleck, liquid solid. When you hit it, it's a solid, and when you move slowly in it, it's a liquid. We spent a long time, like 2 hours, mixing it all up until we had it full. And it was working. I stepped in it slowly and sank, and then ran on it, and I was alright. I also tried hitting it with an axe and almost got it stuck. Yeah, don't try this at home. This stuff is crazy though. I got in and got stuck, so I just buried myself in it, and then put some on my head. Then I got out and tried to walk on my hands. And it worked for a little bit. Then I put some on my face, and when I slapped myself, it didn't even hurt. Then I laid down, got out quickly. My friend jumped across it, and then I hit it with a tennis racket in slow-mo. And then washed off. Comment any other ideas.
So one day I got a leaf blower, a skateboard, and an umbrella to try this thing I saw on TikTok. I didn't really understand how it would work, but I put the leaf blower on and tried it, and I didn't move at all. So then I got in a ripstick that I'm more comfortable with, thinking I would just move better, but it didn't do anything. So then I tried going downhill and then even flipping directions with the umbrella, and it didn't work. So then I got sad, but the sunset cheered me up. Psych, I was still pretty mad. I threw the basketball and then kicked it, yeah. So one day someone left a comment asking how bulletproof oobleck was, so I'm going to test it. And don't try this at home, I'm a pro. We started with a 22 and it did this. Look at the slow-mo. And it put a bunch of bullet holes in the box. Then we shot at it some more. Here's another slow-mo of it obliterating and then doing that. Then I poured it all into this other container to mix up and make more oobleck and blow it up. And here's that. Then I decided to blow up this other bag of cornstarch. And then we wanted to test if a tiny rubber band ball was bulletproof. And we shot it and it knocked a few bands off. Then a watermelon and it did this.